Get me out of here.
He's literally trying to reinvent the wheel.
Make it make sense.
And that is where I think billionaires are genuinely losing it.
Hello, hi, welcome. So today's video was going to be something completely different, but we've had to interrupt our normal programming to bring you a rant because frankly, I am this close to day drinking right now, and it's all because of the smiling assassin, Mark Zuckerberg. Now, aside from his general track record, meaning that, to summarise, I don't trust him, we need to talk about this new thing he is bringing out, or supposedly working on, called the metaverse. What is the metaverse, you ask? Well, the Times is calling it Zuckerberg's techno-utopian dreamland, where the virtual and physical worlds will meld with the aid of Facebook-created augmentation and virtual reality glasses. Now, the video that he has put out is wild, and it's also an hour and 17 minutes, but I'm going to leave a summarised version linked in the description for you to see. Now, I'm not claiming to be an authority on it, but thinking about it and like overthinking about it classically brought me to some interesting places. So give me a second to give you my 2 Bitcoin on how I'm feeling about it. Emphasis on feelings.
You ever play that game as a kid called The Floor is Made of Lava?
Basically, the idea was you weren't allowed to touch the floor, and you tried to get through the sitting room or through the whole house without touching the floor. And if you touch the floor, you die. The floor is made of lava. Now, there's a lot of numbing around the climate crisis and facing it, and I completely get that. And I think some of it maybe is to do with language. I think changing up language can unlock parts of our brain in a really amazing way. And I was wondering the other day, what if we stopped talking about saving the world and started talking about saving the floor? That's essentially what the planet is to us at this point. It's a floor. It's what we're standing on. It's the only way we can physically exist. And that is where I think billionaires are genuinely losing it. One of the more dystopian sections of the video is where he talks about Horizon Home, which is the not very original idea of giving everybody a virtual home within the metaverse. Now, this is obviously like something that's been an obsession for a really long time, from The Sims onwards, most evident, I guess, during the pandemic and everyone's obsession with Farmville, which I totally understand. It's not ideal, but it's understandable given the fact that most people under 40 are probably never going to be able to afford their own homes. But I ask you, what is the point in all of this conversation and talk and research around mental health and its connection to our bodies and what our bodies genuinely need, all of the nuances around burnout, if we're just going to ignore all that and just pretend that we're brains in flesh puppets with no connections to our actual bodies, and that we can experience everything through our eyes, even though we have 5 to 6 senses? The fact is, I'm sorry, our bodies need rest and they need movement, and they most definitely need time away from screens, even holograms, to function. I hate to bring out the phrase, that's just science, but that's just science, mate. And sure, it's cool to wander around your neighbourhood in Farmville and see different things and have that feeling of going somewhere else, especially as we've all been so locked in the last 2 years, but you're never gonna smell it. You're never gonna feel it. You're never going to taste it. You're never going to confront a situation that you can't just X out of. And those things, I think, are all very, very vital to having any kind of human experience. Now, that's not to say I'm against the internet, like, lol, that would be funny. And I'm actually kind of really pro the community side of social media. I think it's life-changing. I've made loads of videos about how people knocking it doesn't have enough nuance and doesn't make any sense. But the fact remains, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, we're born in 3D. We live in 3D, and we live in a world where it has become almost illegal to exist in 3D unless you have money. You don't need to look any further than the kind of preventative homeless architecture, or the fact that almost every square inch of the land is owned, and to get hold of it, you have to pay an astronomical price, or rent it from somebody for an uncontrolled amount of money and an undisclosed amount of time. And you might just say, Leena, but that's the facts of the world. Not everybody can win. There's not room for everybody. Did you know the price it would take to end homelessness in the UK? The price is £10 billion, which sounds like a lot of money if you're a civilian, but here are some other things to compare it to. The cost to the taxpayer, to society, to the government for one single person sleeping outside for a year is approximately £20,000, which is more than the minimum wage in this country. The cost of social intervention to help that homeless person is £1,400 400. Make it make sense. And you might think we've started going on a bit of a tangent, and to be fair, given the evidence of the rest of the channel, you wouldn't be completely misguided in that. But what I'm trying to say when I talk about that is that humans have a real tendency to always make out that the easiest thing is in fact the hardest thing. Now, call me an optimist, but I don't think the easiest thing, the easiest answer to homelessness and the general depravity of mainly, almost everybody on the planet of having fair and affordable housing is giving everybody a digital living room in any colour or size that they want. I'm almost certain it would be cheaper just to make the rich people share, and bonus prize, it wouldn't end in world collapse. A world or floor that incidentally we will need to be sitting on in order to experience virtual reality. No? Mark suggests this virtual workspace where you can bump into people at work and have that feeling of being around people without actually having to be around people. And I don't know, Mark, maybe what if we were allowed to work less and share in the collective wealth that everybody on the planet has built and yet only a few people share the resources for, and then had more time to go out and actually meet the people that are physically near your house, near you, and not just have to work with them in a monetary way, in a rival way, in this way that means you have to exchange your skills for money, but just like meet them for free outside of a corporate context. And sure, people love people from all over the world, and I want to make digital connection as possible, but at the same time, the pandemic has shown us that a lot of us can work from home, but also the limits of that. Like, if working from home was good for us, and virtual connection without physical touch and eye contact and I don't know, all the other things that make reality, then our mental health wouldn't have collectively dropped about 1,000,000% during the pandemic. If we're all having so much fun being indoors, not having actual contact with people, why is everybody rushing out without masks to smooze and smudge and spit all over each other in this country? Tell me why. Don't approve of it, but I'm saying if everyone was happy with Christmas 2020, then COVID in my country would not be spreading as fast as it is in fact spreading. I'll leave some links below to the science, but literally it is clinically proven that if children aren't touched, they die. If humans aren't touched, the mental and physical effects are absolutely incredible. And just having that kind of real experience of other people, you literally can't recreate the release of hormones and chemicals that the body exudes when it is in the presence of others. He used the word presence a lot in his presentation, which was weird because obviously it is the absence, his idea is the absence of presence. And there was also some other weird kind of like mood board keywords I wanted to pick out, which really creeped me out and gave me huge red flags. Quest, maximize, deliver, all a little bit divide and conquer and a little bit computerized. And then also this repeated use of the word we. We need to come into this reality. We know that this is the future. We need to build this economy. As if me, Mark, I build the economy. Yes, I will join you in building the economy. That sounds great. We are equal in that measure. And while I'm not going to take up Mark in his invitation to be a collaborator, I'm also not saying that gaming, digital fantasy, or even just inherently escapism is bad necessarily. I mean, I sit here for hours hallucinating, staring at these kinds of dead trees, and I continue to defend that as my idea of a good time. So I'm not saying we need to stop innovation in these areas, but I also have to sit here and honestly say that his offering, even in its final state, looks frankly subpar compared to the world that we actually live in, especially if we should make it fairer and more bearable for everybody to live in. Plus, he keeps saying that it's going to be good for the environment, but here's apparently what he needs to make it a reality.
We have to fit hologram displays, projectors, batteries, radios, custom silicon chips, cameras, speakers, sensors to map the world around you, and more.
Frankly, Mark, even if you can afford it, I don't think we can. I'm not against the idea of AI in general. Obviously, it's already happening and it will continue to happen. And frankly, there were parts of the presentation that I thought were pretty cool. The idea of being able to walk down like an old ancient street and experience like the dimensions of it, if not the smell and the taste, and actually being able to interact with people, sounds cool. The idea of being able to learn about the universe in 3D and like do astrophysics and stuff. amazing. Probably already exists, but amazing. And if I have to video call somebody, of course I want it to feel as realistic as possible. That would be nice, but it's not going to stop me being irked and trying to fight for the reasons that a lot of people have to video call, namely unfair visa distribution, a fairer, more extended sense of annual leave and time off so people can take big trips and do a lot of quality time with the people they love without having to do a lot of short hops on aeroplanes and a lot of virtual connection. People do need resources to be able to connect better and see each other more, but I don't know if the multiverse is that resource. Yeah, the multiverse looks cool, I guess. I would like to see that 3D street art, but it doesn't promise us a future on this planet, and I think most resources that we do have should probably be going towards that. It doesn't even promise us a conditionless existence, a way we can escape from this idea of being a 3D human that has to pay to exist in 3D and not hover above land. If you think it's too easy to evict somebody from a physical house, imagine how easy it is to evict somebody from a digital one. And who holds the keys? Upon whose whim is this world being built? Well, it would seem Marx. Not Marx, Marx. What this whole thing got me thinking about was who elected Mark. And I guess the fact that Mark has a lot of money should be, for some people, indicative of the fact that we should pay attention to his ideas and his plan for our economy and future. However, what I have concluded is that I do believe that Mark Zuckerberg is clever, but I do not believe that he is wise. And in this world, it is very easy to get rich if you are clever, although being clever is not a prerequisite for getting rich. But in no way does that correlate with being wise. In fact, the cleverer some of these billionaires seem to be, the less wise they become. They completely fail to see the big picture. Completely failed to see the giant peach on which we all stand and hover over the earth, suspended by seagulls. They completely fail to see the big picture. They're completely unregulated in doing so. And the ironic thing is, Mark isn't living in reality, which is, ironically, I guess what he's trying to do, but also obviously going to fail at because of all the actual experts prophesizing general time frame that means that he almost definitely won't have time to do any of this if he doesn't solve the planet stuff first. I'm putting together my debut poetry collection at the moment, and it really reminded me of this poem that I'm trying to edit and make good, but basically the title is "The Reward for Excellence Can No Longer Be Money." I've thought about it a lot and I'm willing to be wrong, but I don't believe when one single human person makes something that is good or successful, if you give them more resources and time and more money, they will be able to replicate it. I mean, just look at Ed Sheeran's discography. Divide it did. But just honestly, when you watch the video and think about how this man is trying to solve a problem we don't have, he's literally trying to reinvent the wheel. He's actually trying to make human hands when we're all actually born with them. They're free, Mark, we already have them. We can already feel with them. The same with gestures and facial expressions. We already got them. The great irony of him, obviously he must have read enough to know that we actually do have enough food and resources and opportunity for everybody. But it seems to me that a lot of billionaires would genuinely rather recreate the world from scratch or fly to space rather than share. Just literally share, to quote Russell Brand. Socialism. I looked it up. It just means sharing. He talks a lot about this idea of a presence platform, which is ironic because he doesn't feel very present when it comes to reality and the fact. And also this idea of being meta, which again, he kind of misuses, I think, when he explains what he thinks it means. But to be meta is to be self-aware. I hate it here, get me out of here. All of this leads me to ask, can the metaverse count as virtual reality when it relies so heavily on the existence and simultaneously the neglect of actual reality? The floor is made of lava, Mark, and your servers are on the floor. Thank you for watching. I honestly can't tell whether I'm being an optimist or a pessimist about this. An optimist in that I think that we can measurably, hopefully, make life more bearable and also survive on the planet. That sounds very, very hard, but logistically doable. Or maybe I'm a pessimist because I'm like, Mark, you've got all these dreams, but actually we don't have time. We don't have time. I don't believe that that is going to be good or possible. But the most important thing isn't what I think, it's what you think. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hash it out because this, while is completely out of my control and I can't really control what Mark Zuckerberg does, it's an interesting thought experiment and it's helped me realize a little bit about what I believe and what I think I know about the realities of the world. So help me God. Thank you so much for watching. This video and all of them on my channel are made possible by people tipping me. That's nice. In the Gumption Club, they make these videos free and available for everybody to watch. No charge. Marks over Mark, am I right? Do subscribe if you'd like to be here again. Here are some more videos I think you might like. And until next time, Frog Snog out.